At UMC, access to your health care is only a call away. Dial 74-NURSE for free, instant medical advice from experienced and trusted UMC nurses, 24 hours a day. Learn more at umchealthsystem.com.
To RedRaiders.com. I am Zach Long. With Don Williams and Krista Pirtle, this is the UMC Health System AJ Media pregame show, the first episode of the 2013 football season. We are just a few hours away from the official kickoff of the Cliff Kingsbury era at Texas Tech, Friday night when the Red Raiders take on SMU and head coach June Jones up in Dallas. And Don Williams, I want to start with you as we go through this. A lot of energy around this Cliff Kingsbury program. How does it compare to, say, some of your other years covering Tech football?
I think, Zach, you'd have to go back 5 years, and this is probably the most excitement and most anticipation that Texas Tech fans have had going into the season, I would say, since 2008, when you had Graham Harrell, the senior quarterback, and Michael Crabtree back, and the great offensive line. Even after that 2008 season, when they won 11 games going into 2009, the atmosphere was not the same, because that was the offseason in which you had the major Mike Leach contract blow up and the shaky signing of the contract extension. So I think you got to go back to a pre-2008 season before Tech fans have been this fired up for a football year to get underway.
And Krista Pirtle, over to you. This is year one for you covering Tech football. You've seen the energy, but we're also figuring out quickly there is a pressure that comes with that energy.
There is a lot of pressure, but when we ask the players, what's this pressure like, what's this like, they're not using it as pressure, they're using it as motivation. They have a point to prove this season, and they're ready. We can look at things and say, oh, this is a weakness, but those guys are behind each other 100% more so than they said they've been in the past. So motivation, pressure, what have you, we're going to see what happens under the lights on Friday.
All right, folks, there's the formal greetings. Now we're going to get into the guts of it. Let's go ahead and see if we can stir up the herd just a tad. We're going to call this segment Make It or Break It. The two people over here next to me are going to identify concepts that could ruin the Red Raiders season or make them glorious and everyone happy in Lubbock. Let's start out with the negative, because I'm a terrible person and quite frankly that makes me happy. So we're going to start with the Break It. Krista, how about we start with you? What could break the Red Raiders?
The offensive line. Yes, the players have said that they've stepped up and they're working hard. Well, that's fantastic. But when we've gone out to do post-game interviews or post-practice interviews, when we were actually allowed in the building and on the field, we were seeing a lot of running and a lot of words from Coach Hayes that we're just not going to use. But we haven't seen very much positive reinforcement in that aspect. So if they can't block and make holes for their running backs, then that'll be a problem.
And on a side note, Coach Hayes, one of my favorite people ever. Great language. I support you 100%, Coach. Don, what could break the Red Raiders?
It kind of dovetails along with what Krista just said when she's talking about the offensive line protection. I think what could break the Red Raiders would be instability at quarterback. That's been, of course, the hot topic all throughout August is who's going to be the starting quarterback. It looks now like it's going to be a true freshman. I think we all believe it's going to be Baker Mayfield, the walk-on true freshman. But what could break the Red Raiders is if Baker Mayfield doesn't perform all that well, and then you go Davis Webb, and then maybe he's not ready either because he's a true freshman, and then you go back to Baker Mayfield, and is Michael Brewer ready, a month into the season? And I think what could break the Red Raiders would be a lot of instability and nobody really grabbing the quarterback job and taking it and making it theirs.
Good points on all accounts. Now we'll step off the emo train and try to smile for a minute and say something nice. How about the Make It, Krista?
The Make It is the tempo. We've heard they're going at breakneck speeds. They said they wanted to run, 2 to 3 plays a minute? Well, that's crazy. But with media timeouts, TV timeouts, with placing the ball, it'll have to slow down a bit for them, but with that fast pace, it's going to wear out some defenses at the end of the game.
All right, Don, what do you see happy in Raiderville?
I'll go with kind of just sort of a big picture thing. What could make the Red Raiders season would simply be playing well at home, which they have not been very good at for the last 3 years, and also just kind of winning the games that they're supposed to win and not having any really ugly losses. Don't come out and get beat 66-6 in Jones Stadium like you did against Oklahoma State. And don't come out and lose 41-7 in front of the home folks like you did against Iowa State a couple of years ago. Just give a consistent effort every Saturday, and the fans want very badly to be behind Cliff Kingsbury and this team. I think they'll be okay if this team loses 5 games, maybe even if they go 6-6. What they don't want to see is inconsistent effort from week to week and ugly losses. So I think it'll make the Red Raiders season if they just kind of give a consistent account of themselves every Saturday.
And continuing on with a positive note, sophomore running back DeAndre Washington. One of those people you kind of just root for after suffering a horrible knee injury his freshman season at Missouri. He ends up redshirting last year, a decision at the time which was very tough for him to go through. But right now, if you're a fan of the Red Raiders, a decision that could have huge dividends this football season.
Man, honestly, I think it was definitely a learning experience, a growing experience. It helped me out to mature as a football player and as a man. And I'm glad I did it, like I said. It was emotional when they first told me and I was going to do it. But, I talked it over with my family, and I think it's the best decision. I think it'll help me out in the long run as well.
Washington also learned watching Eric Stevens recover from his knee injury suffered the same year.
Because I know the type of player Eric is. He had a good year, but he definitely could have been, more effective. And just watching that, and just kind of made me more comfortable with my decision. I'm glad I did what I did, and hopefully it all works out for the best.
The year off from football for Washington is paying dividends thus far during fall practice.
Feel great, man. I think that year off last year gave me all the recovery time I needed. I'm glad I did. Like I said, I'm feeling good. I'm just ready to get back out there on the field now.
Adding to Washington's motivations, the perception of Texas Tech's running backs being one of the weaker units in the Big 12 Conference.
Honestly, we're about 4 deep, and honestly, man, it's 4 players who can literally go out and carry a team and play. And I seen the article, man, and when we seen that, we sat down as a running back group, and we just talked about it, and it's just nothing but motivation, man. And I'm actually glad they picked us that low. It really just woke us up. Like nobody's really giving us a chance. So really at this point in time, it's just either put up or shut up.
Definitely looking forward to seeing what Washington does on the football field this season. And speaking of this season, here comes a hot button issue early on in the show this year, Don. We're going to get right after it. Let's see if we can anger the herd something fierce. It is time for the season predictions. And the rookie here, Krista Pirtle, we are going to start with you. Face the nation. Tell them what you think the Red Raiders are going to do this year.
6-6.
Oh my God.
Stop it. Okay, basically, it's not too hard between 7-5 and 5-7. Sorry, I'm making you angry, but look at the schedule. Just deal with it. So 7-5, 5-7. Let's go in the middle. 6-6. People of America, you still get a bowl game. It's okay, and it'll probably be the Pinstripe Bowl, which Don would gladly love to go to.
Don's a huge fan of the city of New York. He's actually looking forward to it.
Zach, I grew up in Swisher County. I grew up in Claytonville, actually. If you can't even find that on a map. I spent the last couple of years hoping that Texas Tech did not go to the Pinstripe Bowl because I want nothing to do with New York City. I'd probably get mugged there, and I'd be lucky to make it home in one piece.
Well, then you are.
Unfortunately, I think that's my prediction this year is Texas Tech to the Pinstripe Bowl. I think it'll be a 7-5 football season, which I think would be a good year for this team with all the questions that they have at quarterback, the offensive line, yet another new defense, and the coaching staff being new. I think 7-5 would be a good year for this team. Again, I kind of come back to what Krista said. Look at the schedule. I mean, folks, nationally people are saying that the Big 12 is down this year. You don't have a real power team in the Big 12, but what you do have is you have a bunch of good football teams that have pretty quality players. When you're talking about, Oklahoma, Texas, Oklahoma State, Baylor, TCU, West Virginia, I think. Even though they lost a bunch of people, they got Charles Sims coming in up there. Kansas, even though they only won 1 game last year, James Sims is as good a running back as there is in the Big 12. So 7-5 for the Red Raiders, and I think you'd be happy to see this team go 7-5.
And if you hate New York, you're really going to hate my prediction, because guess where I'm putting them? The Pinstripe Bowl in New York, the last year the Big 12 is affiliated with that bowl, thank God. But, I agree with every point you guys are making. I have them as 7-5. I'm going to give them a bowl win, and just for entertainment purposes, over Cincinnati to get them to the 8-5 mark. And the thing I see that you guys are touching on, I will buy into the energy thing. I will buy into the new level of confidence under Kingsbury, and I will definitely buy into the fact they have some serious talent on the offensive side of the ball, and I think they're going to be more aggressive up front with their defense. But the thing you both hit on the head, the schedule is brutal down the stretch. You cannot take a lot of stake in a schedule which has you going to Austin and to Norman. So I think ultimately 7-5, 8-5 with a bowl win, but I still think that is a heck of an accomplishment for first-year coach Cliff Kingsbury.
Now, did I hear you correctly that in December we're going to go to New York to see Tommy Tuberville?
That just sounds like the best Christmas ever, Don.
What's better is the cupcakes. They're fantastic.
So see, we can actually make a sunny day out of a raining pile of crap, but probably not going to enjoy it anyway, but you would enjoy Don Williams chilling in the Big Apple.
Which Broadway show would you like to see, Don?
I have no clue, no idea. You guys would have to help me out on that one.
Cinderella it is.
Don Williams, a beacon of cultural understanding. As we have mentioned several times already on the show, when you look at the energy around the Texas Tech program, very simple to see where the root of that is. Head coach Cliff Kingsbury comes back to his alma mater after a whirlwind coaching tour so far during his young career last year, A&M. His quarterback, Johnny Manziel, wins the Heisman. A lot of focus on him, Don, but there's also going to be some challenges that come with being a first-year Division I head coach.
Yeah, Cliff is, of course, as you alluded to, he's been an offensive coordinator before. He's coached quarterbacks before, and he's got to call plays for Kevin Sumlin last year at Texas A&M. I think he'll do okay. I think he'll do fine when it comes to managing his offense and calling the plays and everything. But I think I'll be interested to see how he handles other game time decisions, heat of the moment things, how to use timeouts, all those sorts of issues that we won't know until he's actually under the gun out there on an every Saturday basis.
And Krista, when we spoke to him right before the season started, you can tell he's definitely dealing with all the off-the-field stuff. There is a ton of attention on him, I think, to the point where maybe just a little too much attention in his opinion.
Yeah, he's said from almost day one he wants the attention to be on the team, the players, not himself. And one big thing that he said he's had to deal with since getting this head coaching job is all the administrative stuff. He can't just be like, excuse me, I'm doing the offense. Right. He has to handle everything. So I think that's been a challenge, but from what we've seen, it's going pretty smooth.
Coach, I was trying to think the other day what the last year or so of your life has been like. It's had to have been a heck of a ride. I mean, you guys have a great year at A&M. Your quarterback wins the Heisman. You get hired at your alma mater to be the new head coach, and these people have gone nuts. I mean, you can't walk down the street now without seeing your face plastered on a T-shirt. I mean, has there been some times where you've just kind of sat back and went, what have I done?
Not yet. It's been too fast and furious to really reminisce, but been incredibly humbling and honored just to be back and be around Texas Tech and a school that I love so much.
This fan base is one of the most interesting I've ever dealt with. They can make that place one of the most difficult places to play in the country, but if things aren't going well, they can also make it sparsely populated and pretty cranky. Is that intimidating at all for you and your coaching staff to know that that's kind of the way they've been in the past?
Not at all. I think being familiar with this culture in Texas Tech and Lubbock and the history here, we know what these fans expect, and I think our expectations are higher than what anybody could put on us. So we're just trying to make this program the best it can be.
There's been a lot of attention on you, and a lot of side subjects have kind of gotten thrown in and out. I mean, are you growing weary of it yet? Are there some things you're starting to maybe just say, hey, that's enough of that, and I would really rather it be over here in terms of a focal point?
Yeah, the focal point should be the players at this point. You know, we've talked about me and the transition and things of that nature, and I'm really excited for the fans to get to know our players once they get onto the field, start making plays, and really leading this team, because that's what it's all about.
There is a Friday night quickly approaching. You're going to open the season against SMU, and it's kind of ironic. You look across the sidelines and you have June Jones and now Hal Mumme.
Two guys I've admired for a long time, not only as coaches but as people, the way they handle their programs, the way they treat their players. So that'll be a great game. They do a great job there at SMU, and it'll be a huge challenge for us.
Have you had a lot of interaction with Hal Mumme?
You know, the past couple of years got to know him a little bit, and has been a great guy. Heard all sorts of stories, you know, from Coach Leach about him, and just have a tremendous amount of respect for him.
what's a realistic expectation for this football team this year?
Yeah, I mean, I've told everybody we expect to win every game. I mean, that's our coach's expectation. That should be our players. And we're not looking at long-term goals of Big 12 championship, things of that nature. We tell our team, let's get better every day, and then that stuff will take care of itself.
And as always on the UMC Health System AJ Media pregame show, we love predictions. But before we get to the old SMU Texas Tech prediction, actually we have a very nice week of competition in the Big 12 Conference, a couple tasty games. We're going to go rapid fire predictions right now. I'm going to start it with Krista Pirtle. How about the intriguing matchup of Kansas State versus defending national champion at the FCS level, North Dakota State?
Kansas State.
Very simply put, I like it. Don Williams, what do you think?
If this were hockey, North Dakota State would kick Kansas State's butt. This is not hockey. Kansas State.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Kansas State here. Excited to see how Jake Waters does in his first start for the Wildcats. Up next, this one's going to be a barn burner. This is like a Don Williams upset of the week, special. He likes to pick on small games like this. How about West Virginia versus William and Mary? Krista? Do I even? Yeah.
Duh, West Virginia.
Yeah, of course. Donald?
I got West Virginia. Do you burn a couch after you beat William and Mary? Do they do that up there?
In West Virginia, you need absolutely no excuse to burn furniture.
If you're at Baylor, you rush the field after every win because it's a big deal.
Yeah, you know what? Burning a couch is much more cool. West Virginia wins that game. How about, speaking of the Bears, right into them, they're playing Wofford. I don't know how you say the name, and quite frankly, I don't care. Baylor's going to win. Don?
I got Baylor, yeah. Big night for, I think, Lake C. Strunk and Glasgow Martin and all those guys. Well, I say big night. Probably a big half for those guys, and then they let the third and fourth team run.
Got to get those Heisman numbers up and running, right, Krista?
You know it.
All right. Oklahoma, Louisiana, Monroe. How about the freshman Trevor Knight getting his first start in the big stadium?
This is interesting because ULM did upset Arkansas last year, but I think Stoops and his Sooners take care of business.
Don Williams?
I'm looking forward to seeing what kind of quarterback Trevor Knight is, because remember, part of the little buzz about him is he played the role of Johnny Manziel when they were getting ready for the Cotton Bowl. He was the guy who simulated Johnny Manziel for their scout team. So it's pretty impressive, I think, that he has gotten this job over particularly over Blake Bell. Everybody assumed it would be the bulldozer, but it's not. So I'll take Oklahoma with potentially a big first game for Trevor Knight.
Yeah, Monroe's not going to fear anybody in that stadium, but I'm like you guys, a lot of offensive firepower around Trevor Knight. Oklahoma rolls there. Texas and New Mexico State, Krista.
The Longhorns, I feel like they can get it out. This will be where David Ash can prove if he has grown over the offseason and can get stuff done.
Donald?
Yeah, this one should be ugly because nobody has more people back in the Big 12 than Texas does, and obviously those guys weren't real pleased with what they achieved last year. They were probably underachievers, so they get the season off right with an easy victory over MSU.
Yeah, let's watch the tempo offensive version of Major Applewhite and see how the Longhorns do there. I think they'll do okay. And when you look at the Iowa State Cyclones schedule this year, the wins may be a little bit hard to come by with a lot of turnover there. How about Iowa State, Northern Iowa, Krista?
I'll give Iowa State this one. They return the fewest starters in the Big 12 this year, and they're going to need a win for the rest of the season.
Donald?
This is like the Hy-Vee Bowl, isn't it, Zach?
Pretty much. I think it pretty much equates to that.
The big in-state rivalry where Northern Iowa tries to knock off Iowa State. As Krista alluded to, I think Northern Iowa has a better chance this year because Paul Rhodes has got to replace a ton of personnel, particularly those two great linebackers. But Iowa State, I think you got to give them credit for, man. The folks turn out, the fans support that team.
Absolutely.
And so Iowa State wins the season opener against NIU.
Yeah, I think the Cyclones will get that win there. All right, now on to the last two games on the conference schedule, and quite frankly, probably two of the more intriguing ones. Let's start with the first of the SEC matchups, Oklahoma State versus Mississippi State down there in Houston in Reliant Stadium. Krista?
Oklahoma State runs all over them.
Wow. Don Williams?
I don't think runs all over, but I'll tell you what, Oklahoma State, one of the things that they have something that nobody in the Big 12 seems to have. They know who their quarterback is. Or at least they have two guys.
They're going to play two of them. That's not fair.
Or at least they have two of them that have already played before that they really feel confident in. So Oklahoma State kind of has a jump start on everybody in that regard, and they have quite a few people back. Of course, they're the conference favorites too. So a lot of pressure, I'm thinking, on Coach Gundy, but I'll give him the nod to beat Mississippi State.
A lot of bounce there. Watch the running backs for Oklahoma State. I think they'll have a big game. And maybe the granddaddy of them for Week 1's Big 12 schedule, TCU LSU in the Jerry World in Arlington, not far from where we'll be this weekend. Krista?
I'm going to go with LSU in this one. I just think that they're going to be able to stop whatever offense TCU has. They haven't named their starting quarterback either, and it'll be a close one, but I think LSU gets the edge.
Donald?
TCU, I give them a chance, but in a game like this, you got to have all hands on deck. And TCU doesn't have Devontae Fields for the first couple of games because of that suspension. So, Bayou Bengals are hard enough to beat if you're, if you have all your personnel in place. TCU doesn't, so I'll go with LSU.
The physicality of the SEC is something to behold in person, and I think TCU, even though they are a very good team, they are going to see that physicality this weekend with LSU. Too much talent right there. I think LSU gets that win in Arlington. That's our first picks of the year. We'll see how bad we are next week when we come back for the second episode. Right now, though, we're going to kick you over to what I hope is one of your favorite segments ever, and we're going to continue it all year. Right now, it is time for Don's Dining Tips.
2 words: microwave enchiladas. Now remember, you got to get the 1200 watt microwave, not the 800 watt microwave. Okay?
Thank you, Don, for that wonderful tip. You are definitely a culinary genius.
Well, Zach, you locked us into me giving 12 tips now, and you know I eat about 4 or 5 different things, so this is going to be hard to pull off each week.
We're going to expand your boundaries, Bubba.
We'll see about that, as Cliff Kingsbury would say.
We'll see. All right, we're going to see what the keys to the game are. Segment we did last year, we're going to get into it this time. Don, I'm going to start with you. What's the first key to Texas Tech versus SMU?
I think the first key is going to be for the Red Raiders play clean first half. I mean, you're not in front of the home crowd, Jones AT&T Stadium. Granted, SMU is not the most hostile environment, but still, you're away from home. There's so much new between the new defense and the new coaching staff, the new quarterback. You have a true freshman starting at quarterback. This is a situation that's ripe for an early disaster, and I think that's what you have to avoid is big turnovers, giving up the huge plays that cause momentum swings. So play a clean first half so that at the break you're not in a panic situation.
And Don, you talk about the young quarterbacks. That's definitely the key to the game for me. If it's Baker Mayfield behind center, who we definitely think it's going to be at this standpoint, keeping calm is easy when you look at the weapons around you. You have to stay concentrated on the fact that Texas Tech has some fantastic running backs, a very good receiving core. Use those weapons, stay calm, stay within yourself, and it's going to be a much easier transition into Division I football to whatever variety of freshmen we see play on Friday night. Don, how about another key for us?
I'll go to the defensive side, and you got to hold your own against the SMU offense, whether it's the run and shoot, the air raid, a combination of the two. The buzz, of course, on the hilltop is Hal Mummy joining the June Jones staff. I mean, it's not like you didn't have a guy who knew about the passing game. Now you have 2 guys who are 2 of the most cutting-edge, innovative passing game coaches in the history of college football, in June Jones and Hal Mummy. On the other side, you got a Tech secondary with 4 new starters. Now, all of those guys are not green. Trey Porter has started 22 games, and Bruce Jones started 6 games last year. But Bruce Jones now is elevated to your number 1 corner status. You have Olafalemi on the other side, who is a first-time starter, and then you have a young guy in J.J. Gaines who's going to be making his first college start as well. So those guys are going to need some help from the pass rush to get to Garrett Gilbert, who is now a 5th-year senior, and that's what Matt Wallerstedt and Mike Smith have planned. They say Matt Wallerstedt says he's going to make quarterbacks earn their scholarships this year and keep offensive linemen guessing where they are coming from. And this is a secondary that is going to need that help, and they're going to need it against SMU because this is a big test.
And definitely, if you're starting to pick up on it, there's a lot of doubt right now in our voices about this Texas Tech SMU game. We've talked about it. We've pumped it up. Now it's probably time to predict it. We'll be right back after this commercial break with Krista Pirtle for the predictions of SMU Texas Tech.
At UMC, access to your healthcare is only a call away. Dial 74-NURSE for free, instant medical advice from experienced and trusted UMC nurses, 24 hours a day. Learn more at umchealthsystem.com.
Welcome back, everyone, to the UMC Health System AJ Media pregame show. We alluded to it before the break. It is now time to put the money where our mouth is and predict SMU Texas Tech, a very intriguing matchup. Krista Pirtle, we're going to start with you.
That's a good question. We'll see.
That's not going to work. I mean, do we want me to go get you some Oakleys and some sweatpant capris while we're at it?
I'm not big on the sweatpant capris, but I'll do some Oakleys.
So then how about you go ahead and predict the game?
Okay.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
Welcome. I'm going to give Tech a 3-point edge over SMU, 38-35.
Logic behind that, or are you just all-knowing?
Well, with those Oakleys, I'll be all-knowing. So.
Wow, this is great. Our own kind has now turned on us. I'm going to look at this game and get a little bit more in-depth here for you, Krista. Texas Tech, obviously there's some question marks. You got the young quarterbacks going. We've talked that to death. The defense has some concerns there because they've went to a new system, but I'm going to tell you one thing right now. It is a more aggressive system. I love what Matt Wallerstadt has done with this defense. I would rather someone go down being aggressive than to go back setting on their heels, and I think that is the key difference in this game. Texas Tech's defense is capable of stopping that high-powered offense with Garrett Gilbert and June Jones and Hal Mummy have conjured up. I think Texas Tech's offense is going to be very good once they settle down out of the jitters, Don. I think they're going to outshoot SMU. The Ponies are going to score points, but in the end, Texas Tech, the tempo, the pace, going to be too much. You're going to see a difference in the level of talent on these rosters. I have Texas Tech winning their opener 42-35.
I see it much the same way you do, Zach, and I agree with a lot of what you said about what Matt Wallerstedt is doing with the defense, and I think he will cause a lot of problems for quarterbacks this year. But, boy, he's going to need to in this first game because Garrett Gilbert, I know a lot of folks think Garrett Gilbert hasn't lived up to his billing since he was the #1 recruit in the nation coming out of high school, and they wound up leaving the University of Texas. But, bottom line, though, this is a guy who's a fifth-year senior, and he also played nearly the entirety of the national championship game when he was a true freshman. He's got a lot of experience, and Matt Wallerstedt and Mike Smith have a big test in front of them to be able to throw this guy off. I do tend to agree with you, though, on what you said about Tech should have more talent across the board. And I give Tech a slight edge in this one. Tech's a 5.5-point favorite, I believe, last time I checked. I'll go 37-31 Red Raiders to pull out the opener there on Mockingbird.
So there you go. We were all kind to the Red Raiders and picked them to beat SMU. That game, of course, Friday night in Dallas, Texas. National TV, big spotlight for the Red Raiders when they face SMU. And as for us, we, of course, are making our journey up there. We'll be up there Thursday. We're going to have a new segment for you that we like to call The Road Rage. We'll have a lot more in particular about the SMU-Texas Tech matchup. So please tune in for that one. Find it at redraiders.com and give us a view as we're out in front of the stadium. Until that point, we have a lot more coverage for you. These guys writing a lot of articles. We'll have a lot more photos and videos for you. You know where to find that at redraiders.com and LubbockOnline.com. That's going to wrap it up for this episode of the UMC Health System AJ Media pregame show. For Don Williams and Krista Pirtle, I'm Zach Long. We'll see you from SMU.